if I might say, just because being a curious creator, you have so much passion for something
Hmm.
usually, or passion for a lot of things. So it's easy to kind of go into 100% all the time, but
Yeah.
it is a lifelong journey. So we have to kind of pace ourselves and make sure that we love ourselves and that we are there for the long run.
Hello and welcome back to the Career Growth Podcast. I'm your host, Kalis. Now, for all the writers out there, you may have sat down and asked yourself, hey, what do I need to do in order to actually complete this writing project that I have? Why am I feeling, like restricted? Why am I having writer's block? How do I actually get to the finish line? As a fellow writer, I've had these thoughts too. And Viveka's own journey actually attracted me to one of her posts, which inspired me and motivated me to sit down and actually get to writing. And, that got me thinking surely it's not just writers who are suffering from creative blocks and who struggle with becoming, intertwined with their inner creativity. I feel like a lot of adults feel that way as well. And upon speaking to like people I know, I've come to the conclusion that maybe we all need a bit more guidance and a bit more, a bit of a helping hand to get us through that journey. And she actually agreed to join us and give her incredible insights to our audience. So thank you so much, Viveka, for joining us today. She is a curious creator pioneer. And we're going to dive into what that means. And I'm telling you, it's incredible. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling very excited to be here, and thank you, Calles, for inviting me.
And thank you for accepting my invite. I know that there are tons of people on LinkedIn who are just so desperate for information, for guidance. And it's posts like yours that actually help us get through that. And, it actually inspires us and provides us with actual actionable advice. So as grateful as I am to that, for that, I would like to know more about your journey. And I'm sure our audience is also curious as to how you got to where you are at today. So tell us a bit about yourself.
Yes, so I'm Viveka, and I am a curious creator. And as we said, you will know more about what that means during this episode. I live in south of Sweden with my family, and we have a dog. It's Bella. So if there is a bark, that is because she is home. So and I can't control her in that way.
Fair enough.
uh, I have a passion, and that passion is curiosity, and how curiosity can make us live and lead a more joyful and purposeful life in unity, even. So I have a personal mission.
Oh, so like,
Yes.
where does this passion for curiosity come from?
Yeah, so I have a long career within working with digital products. So I started off year 2000 working as a web and UX designer, and had lately more into agile coaching and product success coaching. Uh, and I've been working with agile since the Agile Manifesto came out year 2001. And I've always loved the concept of agile. Uh, However, as an agile coach, I'm out and teaching and coaching about that topic, and a lot of people, it's become such a buzzword, overused buzzword,
Yeah.
and people actually has a negative connotation to it. So I was thinking, well, how can I say it with different words? So if you don't know about agile, so agile is a lot about iterative, continuously delivering in small chunks, and then collaborative. So you are utilizing the best out of each and every individual. So the unique skills and the unique strengths of each person. And then also, of course, the adaptive. So it's a continuous learning, learning from what you have done. Is it, what do you want to continue doing? What do you want to do different moving forward? And I was thinking, so how can I say it in a different word? And that's when curious creator came up.
Right. So you coined the
Yes.
term curious creator yourself. You really are the pioneer in every sense of the word. That's incredible. But how
Yes.
did you
And
hear about this? Like initially though, when you came across this agile model, like how did you hear about it?
Oh, that was, it's a big thing, of course. I work within the digital products and software development all my life. So I was an early adopter already from 2001. So it's
Oh,
always
wow.
been part of my journey. But now it's I was kind of thinking of a different way of saying it, and that's when Curious Creator came up.
Oh,
And
great. Yeah.
today actually I have my own company as well. And obviously, what do you think it's called? Curious
I'm gonna
Creator.
guess it's Curious Creator.
Indeed, yes. And
Yeah.
this Curious Creator, we provide, of course, curious services. And the whole mission, the aim with these services is, of course, to create more curious leaders, more curious teams, and more curious cultures in general.
Why, like, what really struck me right there is you said curious leaders. And I feel like that's a component that's often missing in society. We don't look to curious leaders. And I really want to know why this mission is so important to you and how it relates to creating more curious leaders, what kind of impacts that could have as well. So let's start off with why this mission is important to you.
Because I've been going through a journey myself. Because when I started looking at this Curious Creator, I kind of felt like, well, that is actually who I want to be. So I started to embody to be a curious creator, to
Right.
continuously explore, to continuously discover, to want to know more, and also look outside of what I know. So like kind of looking into the unknown a bit. What will happen tomorrow? Because we don't know anymore what tomorrow will look like. So
Yeah.
we need more curious leaders. And then, of course, the curator is the doing, the acting, the taking one small step at a time. And I realized that that's not me anymore. I think we're all born as curious creators. And then we grow up and people are telling us, well meant, of course, parents. I'm a parent myself, so I know I do it a lot all the time. It's like, don't do that, do this instead. And, or maybe you should pursue this career because you have this talent. And so we kind of get restricted. And as I said, it's all well meant, but it also means that we feel that there is a limit to how curious we can be, because if we are more curious, we might not be accepted, we might not be liked, we might not even get the opportunities that others get. So I realized that, well, it's not only me that has this journey. I think we are quite many that has the same journey. So I started to embody this to be a curious creator, and that's why I'm kind of introduce myself these days. I am a curious creator to remind myself of who I want to be.
Yeah, I think
Mm.
that's a really honorable. I feel like it's an honorable goal because right now, I feel like society really needs to get in touch with that creative aspect, that creative part of themselves. Because you did say that we don't really know what tomorrow is going to look like. And I was reading an article about science fiction plateauing, like the future, the creative ideas that we have about our future kind of declining because a lot of the creative pieces of art or fiction tends to just kind of stick with either dystopian, utopian outlook and the usual that we've already explored in many, many different ways. And that apparently our perspective of the future is in decline, which is overall not a very good thing, I think, for us as human beings. Uh, so to me, I just want to know what could possibly lead us in the opposite direction, and it's starting to look a lot like it's because we've lost that one human component, or we're losing our human component, and that we need to like get in touch with it ourselves. So, and that component, of course, creativity. So I want to know how important is creativity to you? What is its role in your life?
So creativity is really a source of joy to me. And also being part of this journey, I realized that I had forgotten to be as creative as I want to be. I was in the more corporate environment, being promoted to various management and leadership roles, and I had this idea of what I needed to be like. So I put on this costume, and I thought I needed to be available at all time. I had to work really, really hard. I
Yeah.
had to kind of show my manager that I was, I was doing a great job. So all of these things, and I kind of lost myself, and I lost my identity a bit. I lost my voice, and I also lost my creativity. And now when I'm being more curious, creativity has just come automatically. So I think being more curious and we will become more creative just as a bonus.
As a
Uh,
bonus. Yeah.
yes, that's my journey of it at least. And I thought like creativity didn't have a place in the business world, but I was so wrong. And now when I
Yeah.
am being creative, and that's when the best of me comes out. So don't stop being creative because we all have our own way of expressing ourselves, and not expressing that is like it's not right to the world. we are
True.
we are not giving our best selves to the world, and creativity can look very different from person to person. I mean, there is the you can be creative in your problem solving, you can be creative in how you clean your house, but and you can of course write a book. So there's all kinds of creativity, so don't limit yourself. Then I need to go and paint a painting. It's not necessarily that.
Yeah.
Whatever, however you want to express yourself.
Yeah. And like, even if you're doing something, you don't have to be the best at it. There is a place for you to start, and you don't have to immediately monetize everything you're doing that's creative either. People are always like, okay, I'm really interested in knitting. How do I turn this into something that brings me money? And instantly you're putting pressure on yourself and you're locking yourself in, because now it becomes, how do I make something marketable? And you're no
True.
longer free to experiment as much, I feel like. But
Mm-hmm.
do you use TikTok by any chance? Do you like watch TikTok videos?
No, I know.
Uh,
I've actually I've been lately
yeah.
thinking about joining TikTok.
Uh,
My kids, of course, use it a lot, but I feel
yeah.
like no, no, now it's time for me, the old lady, to get into TikTok.
Oh, I feel like there's
So
something for everyone there on TikTok, honestly.
yeah, I just don't want to get hooked on the scrolling. That's the main thing.
Oh yes, that's a trap. It is a trap. There have been days where I've spent a good 45 minutes scrolling without even realizing it. I really
Yeah.
do. I have all my apps on lockdown where I can only spend half an hour on any given day on any app. So I'm forced to like take breaks between my scrolling, or else it just shuts the app down for the whole day.
Mm.
But the funny thing is, like, we have one end of the spectrum where people are locking themselves in creatively and being like, I need to stick with something that can be sold. On the other end of the spectrum, people who are very, very creative, because you go on TikTok, right? And you have all these cooking videos where people make their own recipes. And some of those recipes, let me tell you, should not be fed to a living human being. Okay,
Can
and
imagine.
it's just some of those recipes. So,
And my kids kind of, oh, yeah, let's try it. Because the weirder they are, the more fun.
yep, yep. It is
Mm.
fun in a way. Like, yeah, you should not be eating that, but making it looks like it would be a lot of fun. Like people melting candies and wrapping it around pickles. Um, you
Curiosity.
are curiosity. Fulfill your
Yeah.
curiosity. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy both sides of, like, I don't enjoy locking my creativity in, but if I'm bad at something and it's still fun, I think I could do that, right?
Good
Uh,
point. If it's still fun, isn't
if
that the
it's still
thing?
fun,
Yeah. Yeah. If
yeah,
it becomes like, oh, I have to have more viewers, I have to do something even more, and then I mean, because then it might not be joyful anymore. Then stop it, and then go back a bit, and start doing
absolutely.
something that you enjoy doing again. Yeah.
Yeah. You also mentioned that at one point you actually did feel like, oh, I'm not that person I used to be anymore. I wasn't a curious a creator myself at one point, and you had to like work your way back to that point. So I feel like a lot of people around the world also feel like that right now. And that brings us to our first Reddit story where someone has asked, can you relearn how to be creative? And this kind of hit me in the heart, because there have been days when I've been like, when I was a child, I was a lot more creative than I am now as an adult. I feel like the parameters have been imposed in my mind, and I really, sometimes struggle to break out of those parameters. So I'm asking you, I would redirect this to you: can you relearn how to be a creative person again?
Definitely. I think we just need to play more. We need to do more out of sheer joy. And well, I'm better at it now than I was like 5 years ago,
Yeah.
because I see the importance of doing it. Just do it because it's fun. It doesn't need to lead to an income, or it doesn't need to mean that I'm kind of getting money from it. Just do it because you feel good about doing it. Because if you feel good, then you are a better person, and more creativity comes when you are feeling good. And just play, just have fun, dance a bit, and don't stress too much if you feel like blocked. It's like, then do something else. Just go
Yeah.
down, or whatever you enjoy doing. You can go for, of course, exercise is also good. Just go for a run, or play with your kids if you have kids, or a dog. Oh, my dog has teach me a lot. It's like this dog is kind of living in the moment. Each time we go out, it's like kind of, hey, it's the moment of life.
I love that.
Yeah,
Bella,
it's just
right?
like, yeah, she's just like, life and even if we go walk the same path every time, it's like, oh, it's the best of the world. It's just so happy. And
Oh,
also when you, of
so
course, when we
sweet.
meet her, when you come home, it's like as if we haven't seen each other for a year. It's so that we should be more like that. I think we should be more playful, and just take in what's ever here and now and enjoy it.
Yep, I agree. And
Yes.
I'm really glad to hear that Bella's living, best life. What a good dog. And I would love to meet Bella one day, hopefully, like someday. If I do run into her, I make sure to bring her tons of toys. So, so,
Glad to hear.
so what I found really, really inspiring when I reached out to you was that you pushed through. When you face challenges, you push through, and that's very, very hard to do. And so the piece that you wrote on your writing journey itself, it actually lands us on a very crucial question: is how do we get ourselves from point A to point C? How do we see things through? So now you've written a book called Simply Be Curious. And I'm curious to know, as you've told me to be, right? I'm
Excellent. I'm
curious to
glad.
know about your journey, your writing journey in more detail. Tell us why you decided I'm going to write this book. Tell us
Mm,
what you went through while, writing this book.
mm. And this was, of course, my first book, and I've never really had a dream of writing a book. So for me, it was more this journey of being a curious creator, and I had a lot of ideas, and I had a lot of thoughts, and a lot of like different topics, but they were very scattered. So I thought, well, how can I make it into more a narrative, a story that I can tell? And that's when I said, well, if I force myself to write a book, I have to kind of put it all together to a something that I can tell, a story. So that was really the main purpose first, to just do it for myself. And that was important to me. Then what was also important when I started to write was that this is my story. This is my truth. This was about me kind of getting back to my identity. Who am I? What do I believe in? What is true to me? My way of expressing myself. So I didn't actually have anyone to read this book before it was published. For them, I mean, I'm sure people, I mean, again, they have well-meant reason for, change this a bit, or maybe that should be changed. But no, this was just, I mean, if it was good enough for me, then it was good enough. And you can always make a version 2 if worst thing happens. So for me, it was to, and halfway through, I wrote a lot in the beginning, and then I got really sick of it. I was out walking with Bella as well and listening to my own text, and I had this like really monotone voice in my phone while I was walking and kind of listening to my own text, and I got really sick of it. And then I said, okay, well, I just put it away for a period of time. And then when I turned 50 in May this year, and then so people started asking me, so what do you want for your birthday? And I said, well, I want a party. I want a fabulous party, and that's in the making. I want a trip to Paris with my family, and we've been. It was fantastic.
Oh,
And
lovely.
yes, and then also this book. I want to just hold this book in my hand. It's such an achievement. It's a milestone, and it's like kind of just having it in my hand. It's kind of, I made it.
Yeah.
Gosh, and what can I do next? Isn't it? I mean, you kind of accomplished something, and you just feel like, so I made this that I wasn't sure I was going to be able to make a year ago.
Yeah.
And now I made it. So what can I now do next?
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, it has been a very personal story. So anything now that, I mean, a sold book is like a fabulous bonus. And of course, I have a mission to inspire everyone in this world to be a curious creator. So
Yeah.
yes, the more it sells, fabulous.
Yeah.
But the actual story, and I think that made it easier in a way, because I didn't have to feel like, okay, what will people think? Will they buy it? And it's self-published, so no one kind of can tell me if it's good enough to be published. I know it is a
Yeah. There
fabulous
we
book,
go.
obviously, and it's my journey, and what and I always kind of thought of, uh, if this is the book to myself 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
that's
yes, it's been
lovely. That's genuinely so lovely. And it's that sense of, ownership over this thing that you created, that you're holding it in your hands. That must have felt incredible, incredibly empowering as well, especially since you didn't have to go through a publisher, which I've heard is one of the most difficult things to deal with as an author. So for our audience, what can they expect to learn from your book? What should they go in expecting when they pick up a copy?
Yeah, so I kind of see it as your personal coach that you can carry with you everywhere. Um, and if you think about what a coach costs per hour, this is,
Yeah,
a book that you can kind of just read. You can read it from start to end, but you can also just flip it. I do that myself. Like in the morning, I wake up and I just like, okay, well, let's look at this now. It's like, oh yeah, okay, remember myself to, for example, play more, or yeah. Can I show it?
yes, of course,
Yes.
please.
So
Look
here it
at
is.
that.
And
Lovely.
these are my sticky men, and that's how I draw.
Yeah,
And that's also a fun story, actually, because I never thought this was good enough. It's sketches,
yeah,
and that's always been my thing. Though I'm not
yeah,
good at spending a lot of time on things. I do it really quick, and that's
yeah.
it. So this is one step at a time. Take one step at a time. So you can kind of use this as a just, you know, what today? Embrace your inner rock star. So it is really what it is to be a curious creator. And in
It's
the beginning,
wonderful. Yeah.
it has the whole why do we stop being curious? And every section has a reflection section. So that's where the coaching comes in. So
Yes.
yeah.
Incredible. That sounds wonderful. And like your artwork on there it reminds me of Roald Dahl's books, because when I was a kid, Roald Dahl's books we used to buy those, and it always had like a very sketchy illustration every few pages or every few chapters, and it invokes some nostalgia as well. So I'm like, hey, these look like the books that I grew up reading. So that's nice. I think
And it's why my
for
way of
me,
expressing myself, isn't it? And
yeah,
and I quite like the thing that it doesn't look finished, because then it can always evolve.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I know I don't know if this is blasphemous for some folks, because I love books, but I also really like taking notes on my books and like adding sticky notes, like pencil notes. So if
Me
if it
too.
were like, yeah, see, we're of the same
Yes,
mind.
yes.
I mean,
Oh,
it's
yes.
good that it looks a bit unfinished, because someone could add their own touches to it. That
Yeah,
might
you.
that could be the
you-
completion of their creative journey. You never know. So,
I love that you say that, because that was kind of the intention as well. That it feels more
ooh.
freeing to go in and write when it doesn't look so polished.
Yes, exactly, and perfectly so. So, just to talk a little bit more about your journey, what were the main obstacles you faced, and how did how did you deal with them? How did you overcome them?
Yeah, I mean, one was definitely that I got really sick of it after a period of time. And if I hadn't had a birthday coming up, I'm not sure if I've ever picked it up, which would have been a shame. And it does also, I think for me at least, you evolve and things kind of, right now probably write slightly different book because isn't that the case? Because you always learn new things and you expand. So don't wait too long either, I would say.
Yeah.
So set some type of deadline that inspires you and makes sense. And then it's good enough, so to say.
Yeah.
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 Of course, make
That's
it as good as you can, but also some type of deadline, I think it's needed.
Oh yes, deadlines
Yes.
are, and I want to know, did you have anyone to help you enforce that deadline other than it being your birthday, or was that just like, oh yeah, I've set this for my
Yeah.
birthday?
It was my own, for my own, it was an achievement that I
Yeah,
wanted to have done by the time I turned
and
50. And 50
yeah,
is a massive milestone, isn't it? So, yeah, I felt like now is the time. I'm now an
it
author.
is.
Huh?
Yes, you are. It is. It's always the right time. If you're thinking to our listeners, if you're thinking, is now the right time for me to do this creative project? It's the right time. Go
Mm.
ahead. Why
And
not?
also sneak in little because I mean I have a family, I have a dog, and I have actually I work as an agile coach, so I have a very busy life.
Yeah,
So it's always about sneaking in these little moments. It's like luckily today we have our laptop, so we can just write. When I was cooking, sometimes I was kind
yeah.
of writing at the same time, and then you have various tools, of course, you can use today that we didn't have 5 years ago. So to speed things up,
Yeah.
use the tools available.
True. Would you have a favorite tool that you like to use during your process?
Well, I'm a big fan of Miro. So this infinite whiteboard, I love it.
What did you say it was again?
Miro, Miro.
Oh, okay, right. Cool. I haven't heard of this
So
one. I should check it out. Infinite
yes,
whiteboard sounds really helpful,
it
honestly, for
is, and
ideation.
I love whiteboards in general,
Yeah,
and I'm still a big fan of post-its.
yeah,
But when you are online, talking online, then Miro is just fabulous, and yeah,
yeah.
I'm in there every day. So
That sounds really helpful, honestly. Maybe I should put it to use as well. So
and that one was mainly about kind of categorizing everything into a story, all my ideas, like kind of ideas, and then kind of how can I put them together so that it's a good narrative.
yeah, that is a very, very important part, I think, of the entire process where you're supposed to actually bring it all together. And
Hmm.
it can be quite difficult. So I think
Very.
the tools that we have at hand make things a lot easier. The project management tools, ideation tools, these virtual whiteboards, super, super helpful, I feel. But all in all, I feel like this is a very, very fulfilling, personally fulfilling journey of yours. So I would just like briefly like to touch on how being a curious creator relates or translates to the professional success and
Hmm.
professional fulfillment. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think, I mean, to be curious is a necessity for leaders and anyone in the professional industry, and more now than 10 years ago. So you just have to be more curious. With curiosity comes not just you get curious of yourself. Who am I? What's my strength? What drives me? Uh, what's my passion? I mean, all those things you start kind of to dig into, and the more you know about yourself, then the better you can be of value to this world. And also when you're curious of other people. So, and that brings that with that comes empathy, for example, and you become a natural problem solver with curiosity. uh, Innovation, huh? Have we not heard that before?
Innovation,
And how
yes,
important that is
yes,
today. Innovate, to look outside of our box, to also push ourselves outside of our comfort zone all the time. So that comes the creator part, and it's not about diving off a cliff. It's about every little step. If you just do something slightly different today than you did yesterday, you are creating a momentum, and suddenly that thing, I can just tell you, I mean,
Yeah.
I was not comfortable with speaking in public. And now here I am. I'm
Yep.
here, and I feel, it's okay. I can do this. And the more you do, the more you practice, and then, suddenly it's not such a big deal anymore.
Exactly.
I might even enjoy it these days.
You might start your own podcast.
I might do. I have actually already. I only have one episode.
Ooh, that's good
Yes,
news.
yes.
Welcome to the podcast team.
I know, I know. Yeah, I'll contact you with all the tips and tricks of what I need
Oh,
to know.
yes, of course, please do. But do you feel like pushing yourself to be just because, I used to be a very picky eater. I'm using this because it's a simple analogy for me. It's just that I used to be a very, very picky eater. And I did not know how to cook when I was a child. Um, but I slowly began to expand my interests by watching a lot of these shows, MasterChef and stuff. Not MasterChef, but like British, the baking one as well.
Uh-huh.
I used to watch those shows and I got really, really interested in cooking. And that in turn expanded. Like I was doing something completely new that I'd never explored before. And that fed into my eating habits. And I started going to places, putting myself in uncomfortable situations just to try the things that these chefs and these experts had talked about, and that in turn again fed into my cooking and made me a better cook. And now I'm coming up with my own recipes, and I have like
Oh,
understanding of all these fancy terms. And like I'm a bit of a foodie. I love cooking, and that's how I show my love for people. I cook for everyone. So
yeah.
I feel like putting yourself in a new situation, even if it's uncomfortable, makes you a better, more creative, more curious person. What do you think about that?
I mean, I can just say it's such an amazing story, isn't it? That and by you kind of starting to explore something new, you wouldn't have eaten this type of food. You haven't had the pleasure to kind of try this type of food if you were not curious enough to try it out. I mean, again, it comes all down to being curious, and as well as you said, you now sharing your love by this food to people, and can it be any better? There comes the empathy, and the better we feel, the more love and care we create around us.
Yeah.
And the more of that, the more we are. That's why I'm on a mission to inspire everyone in this world to be curious creator, because the more we are, and all these small steps we make together,
Yeah.
well, it doesn't even need to be that hard. I mean,
Yeah.
we all know how to be
Agreed.
curious. We're born curious, and we just need to take little small steps all the time. And together, we make an impact that matters.
Yes, perfectly put. So well succinctly put. I think the baby steps bit is super, super important because you can get really overwhelmed. I mean, it's the human brain. We are wired to overthink. We are wired to overthink over other species who can follow their basal instinct. We built this society by overthinking, but we shouldn't let that like limit us, I feel. The baby steps approach really helps because you're just taking one little step at a time, and every step is progress. That's just really, really, I think, a very wholesome way to look at it as well. Bit of eases the burden on the person. So let's
Yeah,
just,
and
yeah,
if I might say, just because being a curious creator, you have so much passion for something usually, or passion for a lot of things. So it's easy to kind of go into 100% all the time, but
yeah,
it is a lifelong journey. So we have to kind of pace ourselves and make sure that we love ourselves, and that we are there for the long run.
yeah,
So that is also very much part of this being a curious creator, to care for ourselves. So to be a
absolutely.
curious creator is with care and courage. So courage is the one, taking a small baby step all the time. But care is also about taking care of ourselves and taking care of the people and, of course, the world in totality.
Absolutely. And that kind of connects to my next question is that everything we've created so far as a society is built on the shoulders of creators before us. I feel like inspiration is everywhere. What you're looking for might be hard to find unless you know how to look for it, where to look for it. And this other person, this other Redditor, had a question. They said, I have difficulty writing after my brief spurts of inspiration. So they say sometimes I will get inspiration for a story, whether it be a quote that I heard or just an abstract idea. However, if I do not immediately start working on writing, the inspiration is lost, and I find it hard to bring myself to that same mindset later in the day. For example, I had an idea for a short story that was inspired by a quote I heard on Reddit by Winston Churchill. However, I was at work and couldn't sit down to write it. Now it's several hours later and I can't find the same drive to write the story that I had when I first thought it up. Now, personally, I do kind of relate to this. Like, I'll be on the bus listening to music, and I'd be like, this song, I could write a story about this. But by the time I get off the bus, I'm like, where did that go? I don't feel as inclined to follow through. So, what do you think? What advice could you give this person who is really
yes.
struggling?
Yeah, I mean, I recognize myself very much in that as well.
Yeah.
I keep notes, of course, in my iPhone. There is tons of ideas, and I probably only kind of complete 5%, maybe. I mean, if even that.
Yeah.
So I think it's very normal, but I also think that some ideas come back after a while. So I think it's okay if we don't go for that specific idea at that very moment. Sometimes it just needs to you stick with it for a while, and it grows on you. And sometimes two ideas together makes an even better idea, and then that maybe sparks you to actually start doing it. And also, of course, depending on where you are. Start typing. Go to the toilet, start typing in the in the office. You get something
Yeah.
started at least, and again, I mean, if it's just a post for social media, it doesn't need to be that long. So
Yeah.
just photo of that Churchill quote, and out it goes. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if that made any sense, but I can completely feel with that. There's
Yeah.
so much, and you cherish all those ideas. It's because you're curious, isn't it? Because you
Yeah.
have all, and these creative ideas comes, and there's lots of them coming all the time. So and
Absolutely.
you can't do
You can't do
realize them all.
everything.
I mean, that's just not possible.
Yeah. Yeah. You said you only managed to complete like 5% of the ideas that you had, maybe. But
Maybe.
the truth is, we are full of ideas. We're full of ideas, and yeah, it's not possible to realize every single one of them. But I guess you could write it down like a single sentence, like, oh, this Winston Churchill thing gave me this idea, and then maybe 5 months down the line, you find that drive again,
Yeah,
and
maybe
it could
it comes
happen.
up again in a post or something, and it's like, oh yeah, that idea, and now you actually had a bit of time to pursue it.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Exactly. And it does not, like you also said, that it could combine with another idea and then it could form a new one. You never know. I mean, it may not be wasted after all. You might not have to sit around waiting
Maybe
for it. It
even
might come to
better.
you. Could be
Yeah,
better. You never
even
know.
better. Yes, yes. I love connecting dots. That's when it becomes kind of a bit of a new
It's
kind of
it
idea.
is it feels good to connect the dots. But so you have so much going on in your life. You aren't just an author. You aren't just a curious creative pioneer. You're not just like a dog parent. You have so much going on in your life. You have family and everything. And how do you keep it all going smoothly? How do you make sure that that aspect of your life is balanced along with this creative journey of yours, and that neither loses momentum?
So this seriousness, when you're so serious about something, it becomes stressful. However, if you look at it more in a playful way, so today when I clean, I dance a bit while I'm cleaning, and and then when I cook, I kind of also do a bit of typing, and then of course for me, it's very important to always be there for my kids when they have something to ask me. I mean, immediately kind of direct my attention to them, because I don't feel that they should feel that, okay, this curious creator is becoming more important than I am. So that's of course important, and it's a constant balance. I mean, finding this balance. But I think if you don't look at it too serious or too that you have to accomplish something, more like just play, have fun. That's the trick, really.
Yeah.
Mm.
I feel like things. I also feel like everything that's difficult in life gets a little bit easier with music. So I think that's my personal approach. Is that if I have to clean, I throw on music and I dance and I sing and I pretend I'm in a movie and the cleaning is a part of
Nice.
my acting and I
Love
get it
it.
done fast.
Yeah. And while
Right?
you're dancing, then you kind of come up with new ideas, and
Yeah.
yeah, so it's
I'm feeling this. I'm feeling this. Let's
yes.
go. But
Mm,
I
mm.
also do this thing, and I don't know if anyone else does this, but as a foodie myself, when I'm cooking, I pretend that I'm on a cooking show. It makes the the hard task go by fast. I'm like, you got 20 minutes to do this, and you got to plate it for the judges, and it just makes it so much
Excellent.
easier.
Love it.
I love play acting when I'm by myself, but yeah,
Mm.
I feel
Maybe
like that's
soon
it.
we'll see a bit of that in real life, or
Maybe we will, and maybe we
no,
will.
in your own world. Mm.
Yeah. So that's a really, really great approach. Honestly, it's whimsy makes everything lighter, and I think more whimsy would genuinely help people. But where do you draw a cap like on? Because you did say that you used to be a very serious person, and you've taken this approach. Has it changed you fundamentally? Do you feel like fundamentally you're a different person to how you used to be now?
I'm still. Yeah, yeah, both yes and no. I would say it's more about kind of rekindling, I think, me again. So, more finding back to my roots or something like that. So
Yeah.
I more see it as I lost myself during a period of time because I thought I needed to be something that wasn't me, completely me. It was part of me, of course, but not completely me. And now I'm just feeling a lot more free, a lot more joyful, and a lot more purposeful as well. And I think that's something we are missing today. That especially maybe, I mean, I think everyone, not just the young generation, everyone feel like, well, why am I here, and what's my purpose here, and what's going on in this world? It's
Yeah.
as my son said one day. It's like when we're trying to wake him up in the morning, and he said, "Well, what's the point? The world is going under anyway." And that was actually also a start of this kind of
Oh,
journey of writing
yeah.
the book. What am I showing him? That of course there is a lovely world, and we have dreams, and it's just to go out, and we are a beacon of hope.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That is so true. I think that also brings me back to the point where I said our outlook towards
Mm.
of the future is very dim right now.
Hmm.
We don't have a very positive outlook in general, which is very sad because our
Hmm.
stories used to be more hopeful. I feel like they're less so now because of this. And it kind of, when we were younger, we had this approach to life where things weren't that serious. Like things that seemed serious back then were fleeting in nature. So when you were younger, as a child yourself, I want to know what kind of a creative were you? What kind of a curious creator were you? And
Mm.
who inspired you? Who were your role models when you were a child?
Oh gosh, I I just remember this. There is this TV show when I was young. It was like a, I don't know if blob makes sense, but it was like
A blob?
just a big green person, and that was my. I mean, I had odd. I don't know, when I was young. I didn't really look up to specific people, to be honest. I had those, and I wanted to be clown. That I remember. I wanted to be clown and make people laugh.
Ah,
I enjoyed that, and I also enjoyed having parties
yeah.
to gather people and have fun. And I also remember a lot, like with the nature, as you said, like playing with snails, and yeah, just exploring here and now, really.
That's yeah. I feel like as a child, I did not have role models either, but there
Mhm.
were like shows or books that inspired me. I used to, like I said, Roald Dahl. Used to read a lot of Roald Dahl. Used to read Terry Pratchett. So these were kind of like my. I didn't know it at the time, but they were my role models. So, were you much of a reader as a child? Did you enjoy
No,
reading?
no.
But see,
I,
you've
I,
become
I
an
read
author
Donald
yourself.
Duck. Yeah,
There.
I read Donald Duck. No, I did not like reading at all, and I didn't think I was good at writing either. I was good at drawing, so I am in general quite good at drawing,
Yeah.
although I prefer just doing sketches. Um, so no, reading was not my thing. So
No.
it's fun, but nowadays I read a lot
Yeah.
more. I'm not very good at reading from start to end, though. I prefer just kind of diving into the middle.
What if you're reading a thriller and there are
Yeah,
spoilers?
that I don't read thrillers, so that's the thing. Though it's mainly self-help books or like
Hmm.
what does the future look like? So those
Yeah.
kind of works without kind of
Yeah,
following
of
the start
course.
to the end. So
Yeah.
that's also why my book looks in a certain way. It is for people like me.
Right. So
Uh,
you could just dive into any page and there'll be something useful for you there, basically. You don't have to
yes.
commit to A to Z of the book.
No,
You don't
exactly.
have
You will
to.
still get something out of it, even just
Yeah.
if you just dive into the middle of it.
I
Mm.
feel like my friends who have ADHD would really love that because they always say, "Oh, I can't
Exactly.
finish reading it from page one to the end." They might really enjoy this, especially because they get to scribble on it here and there too. So,
Hmm.
yeah, see, why not? So,
Mm.
you also mentioned that you're in the process of rekindling, your creativity. You're in the process of getting back to who, that point in your life where you felt like I am a creative person. So now this is, I feel like your journey is a ongoing journey for it's a journey for all of us. I don't think
Mm.
there is like an end where you could be like, okay, now I'm done. This is it. It's
No,
like I'm going to
no.
stop now. So
Hmm.
what is your routine? Do you have any routines that are helping you through this process?
I'm not very much of a routine person, to be honest. I quite like mornings to just spend like half an hour
Yeah.
reflecting, scribbling down a bit in my notebook, writing a bit. So I think that's the only routine I have. I do love yoga, and it happens that I do meditate. I'm out walking a lot with Bella, of course. Well, a lot, but I'm out walking with Bella, and that's also a bit meditative walking and talking to Bella. So she's the one that hears my stories about Curious Creator all the time. So
What
so
a good
if
supportive dog. What a
exactly,
good
she just listen and listen and listen.
That's so sweet, honestly. I mean, my cat has heard a fair share of complaints and it knows my entire life story because I do sit and
Yeah.
complain to her. The good thing is she just stares at me, so she doesn't want to do anything. She just sits there and she stares at me,
Yeah,
judging me,
sometimes
and
you
I
just
tell
want
her,
someone to listen.
yes, why not? I mean, she lives
Mhm.
in my house for free, so.
Yeah, 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 exactly.
Okay, great. So let's get to our last Reddit story of this episode. And this one's a bit sad, so a bit of a heads up. So this person says, I don't enjoy writing anymore. They're like, it's hard to write this post because writing it seems as if it will make it real. I've been writing for around 6 to 7 years right now. For 5 to 6 of those, I was pretty consistent, writing nearly every day, and I always loved the process. I loved just the act of writing, being absorbed into the world I was writing about, surrounded by the sights and smells, intrigued by the ideas I was exploring. It was fun, and I loved entertaining people. When I shared my stories and people enjoyed them, I got pleasure from that. So basically, last year, this enjoyment, had faded. And while they, did enjoy the few stories they wrote, the vast majority they felt brain numb the whole time or bored, and that they were lacking interest in most of the ideas they had. So they would like some advice from someone with with experience about how they can get that enjoyment back.
Yeah, I think also just realizing that we evolve. So maybe your way of expressing yourself is changing slightly. Maybe you should try to be curious and try out something else or try something slightly different. And it doesn't mean that you will never write again. It might be that you need a bit of a de-root to gain back that energy, make it feel more joyful again to write. So
Yeah.
don't be too hard on yourself, I would say. And again, play dance, whatever you feel is, walk in the nature or do something else for a while. And then I think it will come back when you least expect it. And then it will feel joyful again. Don't restrict yourself too much and feel like I have to do this that I used to enjoy yesterday. You might evolve and you might want to express yourself in a different way. So let your yeah, be curious and create whatever feels good. Or if nothing feels good, and just go out and walk in the nature or do something else that you enjoy
Yeah.
doing.
I,
That would
I,
be mine.
a lot of people say take a walk, but I don't think we really realize just how helpful a walk can be. Because when we see it online, it sounds like, oh, it's just go for a walk. Yeah, just go for a walk. It'll fix all your problems. But no, you really need to kind of detach from the noise and put
Hmm.
yourself, like in that path and walk for a bit. Your brain clears up. Like I've actively felt my brain fixing problems while I'm taking a nice
Uh-huh.
lengthy walk. So
Yes.
that's genuinely super, super helpful.
It reminds me actually of when my
Yeah.
kids, when they were young and they started to scream, it was like a fighting going on at home. And it's like, now we're going out. And suddenly, everything just became much better. We just,
Yeah.
and then, yeah, they knew as soon as they were starting fighting, so they stopped fighting so much.
Uh,
If they didn't want to go out, even if it was raining and
yeah.
stormy.
Yeah. Oh, even in the
Ah,
snow,
yeah.
even in the
Yeah,
rain.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I love snow. That's the
Yeah.
best.
I'd be on my best behavior.
Exactly.
Perfect parenting hack. Got to tell my sister about this.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, last question that I have for you is what piece of unconventional advice would you like to share with our audience?
Mm. I have one quote that I love. It's
Yes.
by Walt Disney. Look at everyone else and do the opposite. Because today, I think with all this impression, all this TikTok and all these social medias and all this information we get of how is other people doing it, and this is doing it, this is success. Do
Yeah.
it this way and you will earn more money and or more visitors or more attention or whatever it is. I always try to look at it, it's like, okay, well, you do it that way. How do I want to do it?
Yeah.
Because if you do it your way, it might take longer before you kind of gain that thing you want back,
Yeah.
but then it is more sustainable. If you just go for like, this is how someone else did it, yeah, you can take it as inspiration. Yes, do that. But I think if you just go down that route, it might not be the way that is right for you. So you might gain a bit of value quicker, but it won't be sustainable. So yes, I love that one. And of course, as a curious creator, embrace change with curiosity, and you will have a much more fun and fulfilling journey. And I
Oh,
think that's in general, like, if we just embrace curiosity a bit more,
yeah.
we will have a much more fun life.
That is fantastic advice, honestly. And just thinking about Walt Disney itself is just he is kind of a visionary. Yeah, there are the fair share of like debates and problems around him as a person, but I do think that he was a visionary of his time, and his methods really were really fitting for him as a person. It's not
Mm.
applicable to every single person, but like he had some really unique methods which through which he approached his work. And genuinely, it does not surprise me at all that he would say to do the opposite. Well, look at everyone else.
Hmm.
That sounds like Walt Disney 100%. And you know what? Do it. Go and try something really weird out. You never know. That might be the spark that sets off your journey.
Yeah, or just a tiny bit outside of what everyone else are doing. It doesn't need to be the exact opposite, but try, just make sure it's a bit of your expression, your way of doing it.
Yep, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. Thank you so much for joining us today. It has been such a genuinely fun conversation. I hope that our audience were able to, rekindle some of their own creativity by, listening to this wonderful advice you provided us with. And to our listeners, We are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, as well as on YouTube. And of course, please do go check out capital-placement.com. We've got tons of free resources for you available there, answering all your career related questions. It's been Kailash, and I'll see you next week. Bye.